Hello, Gunner James 105. So I have on the table what would appear to be the number 4 Mark 1 Enfield. The top one is for sure. That would be a number 4 Mark 1 Star, and that one was made at Long Branch, and that's the one that I had done probably maybe my second video that I had done for the channel. I featured that rifle because I had brought it back from a sporterized to as close as I could get to the original condition. And so it's a 1942 model, and I believe I even came up with a, just bump the camera there, but I don't know if you can see from there, but the sling is Seabroad Arrow 1942. So as best as I could get this thing looking original, that's what that deal was. But that's not what this video is about. It's the bottom rifle, which I need to give you some details on, because from my checks through the internet, YouTube, there isn't a video on this model of Enfield. So this will be the only video that I know of that features this particular model. Now this one is rare. I have a Siamese Wild Tiger Core Enfield, be for the I think it was the contract, or they came out, started 1919, 1920 for the King of Siam, and they made 10,000 of those, which makes that rifle rare. When some models can be in the millions. I mean, I believe an M1 Garand or even the M1 Carbine were up in that 6 million range, produced. When we're talking about this particular Enfield, about 3,000 were built. And so there is no firm number on that, but about 3,000. So that makes it quite rare. And this is one of the other rifles that was picked up same time as the my last video on the number 2 Mark 4 22 Trainer. This particular rifle could have been made up from, because this is a converted rifle, and it's one of the last Enfields that were built. So what I can tell you is that this one is from the title you'll see, of course, it's the rifle number 9 Mark 1. And so it had been special ordered by the Royal Navy, and they were being put together by Parker Hale, and that was occurring between 56 and 60. Although I don't think anybody's ever seen a number 1956 dated rifle. So basically 57 to 60. And I don't even know that they made very many in 58, if any, but 57 for sure, and 59, 60. And so they would take a number 4 rifle, and it could be any of the models. It could be the Mark 1, Mark 1 Star, Mark 2, Mark 1/2, Mark 1/3. It could be any of those that they would get their hands on. And but most of them were the number 4 Mark 2. This one, I guess it would make it a little more rare, but since it's the number 4 Mark 1. So it's got the spring-loaded release for the bolt head, and it doesn't have the trigger is part of the trigger guard, so that's the how we can tell that. Otherwise, there are no indications on the other side. If I'll flip that around, but there's no markings that's been ground off on that butt socket. So on the other side, on the butt socket on your number 4 is your serial number and the maker, etc. Well, none of that's there. So basically what they did was, as in the last video, they took and did the same touch on the I'm not going to take that out just yet, but I will. But they did the same type of bolt head changes, and the magazine, from all I can come up with, they were all just simply empty, no spring and follower inside the magazine. Whereas this one has the same as my last video, that little insert. So it does have a spring and a modified type of follower for the casings to just fall into the magazine. The rifle is 100%, otherwise 100% No.4 Mk.1. I do see, I believe it's a M67, so this would be a Maltby bolt. I don't know, again, too, I'd have to check, because serial numbers do match. So this would be changed. The serial number is different here. So this serial number matches what's on the other side, which I'll show you in a little bit. And so what they did with these, though, is that they did bore out the 303 barrel, and then it was sleeved. So it had a 22 liner sleeved into the barrel. And so, unlike the other that had an actual 22 barrel put on it, these were 303 bored out, and then they had put in what they call, you'd see it was actually Parker Hale that did these up, but it was still the AGP part of it, the Parker rifled as far as the barrel is concerned. So I think it was that part of it was left to that AGP group to do the barrel. So I'm going to give you some close-ups, and so now that I got some of the details on this, because it is quite rare. They had some different markings later on. These are the early markings. The later markings had like the pencil, electric pencil type etching. So first of all, I had been shooting this, so it's going to need a bit of a cleaning. And you can see, after having fired a few, that's just some of the last ones that I had shot there, but they just fall down, and sometimes it'll eject them and they'll just go flying. But so that there's, we'll just dump that out. Probably one stuck in there yet. But anyways, that's your and the magazine, I believe it's just on the one side. Sometimes you'll see it on both sides, but there's your 22 designation there on the magazine. The so the bolt, again, is, sorry about that, the claw is bigger again. It's the same, you can see how dirty that is. It's the same idea as the other video. I can show you again on this one that basically your firing pin's been cut off. This one's actually nice clean look in there, but yeah, they just cut the firing pin off, and we have that pin that comes out. So this has been filled in right here where the firing pin would normally come out of, and another hole drilled. It's quite a neat design. It's quite neat that, I mean, there's nothing, as far as I know, the C7 uses the same bolt, Canadian C7 trainer, and but the number 7 British 22 trainer with the magazine that has the little magazine inside of it with 5 rounds, the bolt is completely different. They have a shorter throw and things like that. Whereas this one here, when you're working that bolt, it goes back and then goes forward and locks exactly the same as the 303. So it gives you a truer feeling for the real thing. So that's the bolt then. Now I will get to a couple more markings here. Let's put it all back together. Oop. So there, and I think, so there we go. So now, the one difference you'll see right away on the sight where they've marked 25 yards, and so it's actually there's a line that lines up. So there's a line on here. So if I were to move that, I'm moving it down, you can see it move away from the line, and then this would be set, if I line that up, so that would be set for 25 yards. Right there, so that's set for 25 yards. So you can see that. But here are the markings then. And so what we have is what would be, according to what I've read, they all started with A on the earlier models, and I don't know if they got up to about 2700 or something with that A type version. So this is definitely an earlier, so this would be number 759 out of that approximate 3000 that were built. And then we have 22 RF or rimfire Navy 9 Mark 1. Okay, and then PH, so Parker Hale 57 or 1957. So again, what I would consider a very rare rifle. The sling is not original to this. I just put that on. I'm thinking I've got to probably find a correct sling, and whether a sling was even necessary or bothered with. It is interesting too that they've marked the stock with that same serial number, so at A759, and that it still has the bayonet lug, because I believe the C7, Canadian C7, they didn't have the bayonet lug. And then if I can get this around this way, I will show you. Do a little camera trick here, but so hopefully that shows up. And you can see the Parker rifled. And then that would be AGP on there. I hope it shows up. So maybe that's got it there. And the crown it looks a little different. It's quite amazing the work they did. The barrel, if we look at the two rifles, I'm going to do some camera jiggling here, but if we compare, so the barrel is a bit shorter. Let me move down this way so you can see that the barrel's a bit shorter than the original 303 version. So Enfield number 9.